Can you hear me now? Is that better? This looks like a technical. Well, I'm realizing because I'm seeing you guys right at me now. Oh, fuck. God damn it. Can you hear me? Oh, awesome. Cool. Good. So we're in business. It looks like somebody had turned off my fucking mic. I think I know who that is. They had borrowed my computer and turned off the mic settings. So anyway, let's get the party started. What I was saying before I realized there wasn't a mic is that for the people who are new to this, I do these Q&As every other week. Around 12 p.m. Eastern time is when I start the Q&A session, Eastern US time, that is, not Australian time. And the next one is going to be on December 10th. I also had mentioned that my Beast Mode by Science is currently still on Black Friday offer, which will expire tonight at midnight. If you use Black Friday, the coupon code at checkout, you'll get 30% off. So that is linked down in the description. Anyway, now that we're back in business, let's get to the questions. Let's see here. What are good sources for scientific research? Well, I mean, I use PubMed, but even PubMed can have bad research. What you need to look at in a study is, was it conducted on humans? Now, that's not necessarily something that you have to do, but for the most conclusive results, human research is the best. Rodent research or research on other animals is not necessarily going to be conclusive for humans because, for instance, they might, as a species, have a different reaction to something than we would. It might, make it interesting enough that we want to pursue human research on a topic, but it's not the same. So you want to look at the quality of the research, like what controls were used. Was it peer reviewed? Is it a reputable journal? Is it a journal that's recognized as being reputable? For instance, like for bodybuilding, you could say something published in the Strength and Conditioning Journal would be something that would be reputable. But you still have to look at it study by study, who funded it, biases, things like that. And all that stuff should be pretty apparent when you look at the study itself and those that were involved and how the methods they use and all of that. But yeah, PubMed is a good place to begin looking for research and then from there sift. Any advice for sciatic nerve pain? I'm not a doctor. I don't really have anything I can give you for that. I mean, if you're having any kind of pain or recurring pain, you might want to see a therapist of some kind. Speak to like a physical therapist. That's my best advice with that. Don't try to work through something yourself because you might be doing it wrong, or you might be misdiagnosing yourself, and whatever you're doing to treat yourself might not be good. So that's my advice on that. If you have any kind of injuries, see a doctor. I mean, I've seen physical therapists for a couple different things already because things happen, injuries occur. Have I ever read Main Street Vegan? No, I have not. I don't even know what that is. I'd have to Google it and find out. What do you promote the ketogenic diet for exactly? Do you believe it's superior to health compared to high carb, high fiber vegan diet? I do not think it's superior in any way, with the exception of diet adherence. It has been shown to help people adhere to a lower calorie diet better. That's because satiety is better. The higher fat, higher protein, and lower carbs, just people feel more satiated on that, at least in the short term. So for people who might have a problem with binging, and they might give keto diets a go because it will restrict them from eating certain kinds of foods, and they'll feel more satiated in a lower calorie situation. So I kind of look at it as like a good resetting tool. Like, for instance, if I find that I've been doing higher carb dieting for a while, I'm getting a little too many cravings or something, I might throw a keto diet in there for a while to just reset those cravings a little bit. That works for me, at least, but it has been shown to improve satiety. It's not optimal for health in any way, with maybe the exception of if you suffer from epilepsy, because it has been shown to help epileptics, but it's not optimal for health in the sense that it's very limiting. So you're not getting a lot of fruits. There's even some vegetables you can't really eat in large quantities because of the carb content. And therefore, you're missing out on a lot of micronutrients, and you need to supplement while you're on a keto diet. If you've seen my previous day of eating keto video, you'll see I supplement like fucking crazy because there's just a lot I'm going to miss naturally by not eating a lot of fruits and certain vegetables. So it is very limiting. No, keto is not an optimal diet for health for the general person, the average person. It's a good way to adhere to a low calorie diet for a while if you've been having trouble sticking to a low calorie diet, especially if it's because of cravings and hunger. That's it. What do you mean by BCAAs, supplements or food? BCAA stands for branched chain amino acids, and that is a supplement. It can be a supplement, but there are also the specific group of amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, that make up the BCAAs. They're viewed as the prime movers and shakers for protein synthesis, the most important essential amino acids for building muscle. Not that the others aren't important to some degree, and there's some your body can make, like the non-essentials. But there's some you have to get from diet, and those are very important to get from diet, especially for muscle growth. But yes, you can supplement them. And yes, there are times when supplementing BCAAs can be advantageous. For instance, if you're low calorie, supplementing BCAAs can help stave off muscle loss. It can help make up, maybe perhaps if your protein has to be a little lower because you're lower calorie, it can help make up for some of that in a way that won't impact your calories really. Those are some examples right there. If you're training fasted, it's been shown to prevent muscle damage from fasted training. Those are just some examples of where BCAAs might become useful. It's very situational. I mean, if you're eating enough calories and you're getting enough protein from diet, you don't really need BCAAs. You're going to get them from your diet. But situationally, there are times where you'll need them, or they can be useful is a better word. What are your thoughts on prolonged fasting, like many days? I see no point in it. A lot of the values that can be gotten from fasting can be had within 16 hours of fasting, that is intermittent fasting. So there are people who advocate for week-long fasts, 3 and 4 and 5 day fasts. I haven't seen enough research to show that that's beneficial, or any more beneficial rather than just 16 hours. So I mean, if I saw that there was more benefit to it, I might give it a go. Maybe fast a day, eat a day, fast a day, eat a day, because intermittent fasting has been shown to improve aging. It's been shown to fight cancer. These are things that we are seeing potential value in. Some, there's a significant amount of research showing value in. And it may be very similar to the way our ancestors ate. I mean, it would make sense. Feast and famine diet, basically. Periods of where there wasn't a lot of eating going on, and periods of feasting that were going on. So it may very well be, and I hate to say this, the natural way that our ancestors ate, so the way that our bodies have evolved to eat. And it might be healthier for us for that reason. But I hate making appeals to nature, but there may be some truth to that. Let me see. What's the next question here? Trying to transition to a vegan diet. I'm struggling as I had meat every meal. Well, you might find that mock meats, if it's the taste and texture, you might find that mock meats help you make that transition a little easier. I have a video on this channel. I don't remember the exact title of it, but if you search mock meat or meat alternative or something like that, or easy vegan, I think it will come up from any one of those, where it gives you examples of how to get over meat cravings, egg cravings, dairy cravings as a vegan, ways to transition a little easier, to help you just move into that vegan lifestyle just a little bit easier, than you might otherwise. Because some people, it's a little different. Some people genuinely do, especially with things like cheese, crutches that hold them, things that anchor them to a non-vegan lifestyle. What do I think about grains in general? Are they optimal for our health? What about gluten? I don't have a problem with grains, and I only say restrict gluten if you have some kind of a problem with it. Like, there are people who genuinely do have a gluten allergy. There are people who are genuinely cannot eat gluten, like, for instance, people who have a celiac disease. But other than that, like, they are a good source of protein. They're good source of fiber. They have micronutrients that are very helpful. There's nothing wrong with grains, nothing at all. Just work with your body. If you have allergies, of course, avoid the things you're allergic to. How many calories should a skinny guy consume per day? This isn't about, like, necessarily whether you're skinny or not. what you need to do is you need to eat for your body weight, you know, and so if your body weight is you know, and what your goals are too. So if your goal is to gain weight, whatever your body weight is, you know, eat a surplus of about 10 to 20% over your maintenance needs. So generally speaking, that's like between 16 and 18 calories per pound of body weight, if you want me to generalize for you. That may be wrong. That may be wrong for you. I don't mean wrong in general, but wrong for you. In which case, if you're gaining too much weight too fast, cut back by about 200 calories a week, well, per day for a week, and see how you go. You want to get to a point where you're packing on more lean muscle than a lot of body fat. You know, if you're gaining a lot of body fat, then you're eating too much. If you're not gaining at all and you're losing weight, yeah, increase your calories by 200 a day, and then monitor by the week and see how you go. That's my best advice for that. But there is a baseline that you can use to kind of find where you should start. You know, and that is about 16 to 18 calories per pound of body weight. I'd say for folks who gain weight really easily, 16 calories per pound of body weight. For folks who have difficulty gaining weight, 18 calories per pound of body weight might be a good starting point, and then adjust for there. Equalize for your body, basically, up or down, depending on what results you're seeing. Pay attention to your results. Track your weight, track your body fat, even if it's with a caliper or a handheld unit if you can't afford a DEXA scan. A lot of people can't afford a fucking DEXA scan. And look in the mirror, feel how your clothes are fitting. Those are ways to track how it's going. And also just look at how your body looks in the mirror, like your compositional changes. Like, do you look like you're getting bigger? Are you getting stronger in the gym? Track that as well. But do you look like you're getting bigger in a good way? Or do you look like you're kind of just getting bigger? You know, track those things. It's very important. And then adjust your diet accordingly. You'll find your sweet spot eventually. And then you'll have to adjust it again as you gain enough mass that you might need more calories as you go forward. That's the best way to clean bulk, so to speak. What would you have for breakfast on a keto vegan diet? The winter UK makes me want to eat nonstop junk food. Yeah, I know what you're saying. You know, but I love junk food. I love it. I am a big eater. I love to eat fucking food. So that is a problem for me. That's why I use keto to reset things a bit sometimes. The keto diets, I mean, for my breakfast, because typically I have it around between noon and 2, because I fast. I still do intermittent fasting even on a keto diet. It's probably something like, you know, tofu cooked up with some spinach, or maybe a mock meat cooked up with some spinach, throw on some flax seeds, crushed flax seeds on top, ground flax seeds, and a Brazil nut, usually for that selenium content, just one single Brazil nut. And I usually cook that up in some coconut oil. That's one way that I'll go about it. That's usually a typical breakfast. I also will spice it to taste. For instance, I'll salt, because that will help me with a pump later on in the gym, because it's hard to get a pump on a keto diet. And I'll throw on some like pepper, some crushed red pepper, because it adds a little kick, a little flavor, you know, to the meal. And that's something, as when you're keto, because you're not having carbohydrates, you want a little something in there, you know. Let's see. This book I read said you don't need to count calories on a vegan diet. Is this true? That's bullshit. Anybody who blanketly tells you not to count calories, if your goal, let's caveat here, if your goal is to maintain your weight, gain some weight for size, but good weight, that is, not just general weight, or lose weight, you're going to have an idea of what you're eating. You know, even as a vegan, if you eat too much, if you overeat your calories, you're going to gain weight. How you overeat your calories, like the quality of food you eat, will determine what kind of weight you're gaining to a degree. There is going to come a point where you're just eating so many calories, no matter how clean your diet is, clean, quote unquote, you're going to put on fat too. And when I say clean, for me, clean is a very, very generous term. You're not binging on junk food, these cake, pies, shit like that, processed junk. Clean to me would be like tofu and beans and broccoli and carrots and spinach and onions and tomatoes and mushrooms and grains and potatoes and things like that. Those are clean foods to me. Foods that are minimally processed, nutrient dense. You're getting a lot for your calorie buck, basically. Even though the word clean is something I don't particularly like to use very much, but that's what it means to me. So But if you're eating a lot of processed crap, you know, and you're eating a lot of calories, you're going to gain weight. You know, there are fat vegans, so clearly you can't just eat vegan and not count your calories, because you can get fat as a vegan. Let's see here. Next question. Creatine works for me, but my stomach kills when I use it. Any tips? Some people have bad responses to creatine. They get bloating, etc. Maybe you can't take creatine. I don't know what else to say about that. What form of creatine are you using? There's various kinds of creatine. Creatine monohydrate is the most studied, but there's also, you know, like I think creatine ethyl ester. There's so many different kinds of creatine with different compositions, chemical compositions to it. So I use creatine monohydrate, which is the cheapest, basic, most studied form of creatine. Anyway, which supplements do you recommend for a better immune system? It's really kind of a tough question. I mean, it depends on what your issues are. People say echinacea works. I mean, I don't like supplementing unless you actually have some reason to supplement, like you're missing out on nutrients in your diet somehow. Like, for instance, when you're on keto, or you have an injury in your joints, you know, or you want to prevent inflammation in your joints because you're you're active in sport or something. That's why I recommend Cissus quadrangularis for that, because it's fucking fantastic. Or you're like deep dieting, so you use BCAAs to prevent muscle loss. Those are what I call like reasons to supplement. You know, I guess if, you know, being a vegan, B12 is a good way to supplement if you're not getting fortified foods. Vitamin D, if you're having a deficiency in that and not getting enough sunlight. These are things you can supplement. These are reasons to supplement. But you know, if you're having immune problems, you probably should see a doctor, not really try to supplement. But people say echinacea works. The research seems mixed on that. I've seen evidence that if you feel like you're coming down with a cold before the cold actually strikes, if you feel it coming on, that if you hyperload on vitamin C, like something like 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C, like every hour for an entire day, or was it every 3 hours? It was a study on this, so I had to look it back up again and know the exact framing of it, but it eliminated like by 80% the symptoms of the cold when it finally onset. These are things you can do. But I mean, ultimately, the best thing you can do for your immune system, if you're otherwise healthy, is just eat well, get plenty of sleep. Believe it or not, train in the gym. You know, it makes your whole body stronger. Although you are a little weakened after you come back from a workout, which is why you need to replenish in food. Those are some of the best things you can really do for yourself. Is take care of yourself. Really, don't imbibe alcohol and smoke and use drugs and do anything that's going to toxify your body. You know, weaken your body. That's my advice on that. But if you are a person who's naturally very sickly, you might want to see a doctor and see what the core reasons are for it. What are your thoughts on the rate of suicide, depression, alcoholism going up further north humans live? It's clear that humans are tropical creatures. That's a general statement that humans are tropical creatures. We are not. In fact, the out of Africa theory, for example, has been disproven. They have found evidence that there were indigenous people to Europe that broke away from wherever they broke away from. Even basically, the Africa theory has been disproven. They might have broken away even further back. So to say that we're all tropical creatures is not the case. There are people who are more adept. To give you an example, African Americans have 10 times higher likelihood in the northern hemisphere of getting rickets and vitamin D deficiency than whites are. Whereas whites have a higher prevalence of getting skin cancers in the southern hemisphere. You know, some of us have evolved to live in certain parts of the world. So we're not all tropical creatures, just put it that way. We do have genetic differences and genetic preferences, if you want to call it that, to where we live, to how we behave, to how we eat, etc. So that is a very blanket and incorrect statement that we're tropical creatures. But as for depression and alcoholism, there could be a number of. I actually want to do a video on mental health, and especially mental health in the vegan world. I want to do a video on this because people like to blame vegans for being insane. And I don't think it's that veganism makes people insane. From what I'm seeing in the research, veganism doesn't make people insane. Insane people are attracted to vegans. So, but more on that in my video. I'll be getting to that. So, but there could be nutritional deficiencies associated with it as well. There has been evidence of, for instance, vitamin D deficiency causing depression. That's one thing that I've read before. But you know, this is something I have to look a little deeper into, and I should do a video on this sort of thing because it's a very interesting topic. Do I recommend vitamin D supplements in the winter? If you have a deficiency, yeah. I mean, get your blood tested. If you're getting enough from the sun, because the sun is still out in winter, you probably don't need a supplement with D. But if you find that you are D deficient for some reason or another, like I was mentioning with African Americans, if you're somebody who is more prone to deficiency, you might consider supplementing with D, you know, just to ward off that potential deficiency, which is a very bad deficiency to have, like B12. It's not no deficiency is good. So do everything you can to take care of yourself and take into account genetic factors that might cause you to have a certain deficiency, you know, or hereditary things you might have. Think about all of that. Take care of yourself. And see a doctor too. Talk to a doctor if you're having issues or signs of deficiencies. Get your blood tested. Let's see. Should I be worried about vitamin K on a vegan diet? You can get vitamin K on a vegan diet, and there is K1 to K2 conversion. So spinach, for instance, you can get K1 and you can convert it to K2. It's not the most efficient conversion rate, but if you're eating enough spinach, you'll get it. I've done a video on this actually. My third response to VARG dealt with vitamin K. And then there's some vegan foods like natto. Am I pronouncing that properly? It's the Japanese fermented soybeans. Natto is a source of vitamin K2. It's a vegan source of K2. So if you're eating a well-balanced diet with enough greens, leafy greens, and perhaps even some natto, you're going to get vitamin K. But if you find your blood results are saying that you're getting low, supplement with vitamin K. You know, and I don't care if you're not a vegan. If you are someone who has a deficiency that's beginning to creep up, vegan or not, supplement. For instance, B12 is a very common deficiency, and even amongst non-vegans. So supplement. It's just take care of yourself. There could be underlying factors as to why you're deficient. Maybe you have malabsorption of the vitamin from diet, for instance. My mother is an example of that. She has a malabsorption of B12. She's not a vegan, but she has a malabsorption of B12. Luckily, I didn't get that, but she has it. She has to get vitamin B12 injections, or she'll die. Is there a such thing as veganism on a budget? I'm broke, and I agree with the ethics of veganism. Oh yeah, of course. In fact, veganism. I have been an omnivore most of my life, actually, up until 2012. I mean, sorry, 2002. I was a vegetarian from 2002 to 2013, and I've been a vegan since 13. And veganism is by far the cheapest way of eating. Some tips that I've learned. Fresh vegetables are very expensive, so maybe try buying frozen. You know, don't buy fresh broccoli, fresh spinach. Buy frozen broccoli, frozen spinach. It's not going to affect the nutrient profile from what I've seen, and it's cheaper. You can get more of it for less cost. You know, same thing with fruit. Buy frozen where you can. It even stores longer. And then, of course, buy cheaper fruits that are cheap fresh, like your apples, your bananas. Bananas are dirt cheap. I can get I think I've spent about $4 buying like 20 or 30 bananas at a Whole Foods market, organic, weighed for like $4. It's cheap. Bananas are pretty cheap. Some things are pretty cheap fresh. These are things you can do in a budget. Buy beans, not canned. Well, canned beans can be cheap too, but you can buy them where you can buy them in bulk in a big bag, and then you can cook them yourself. That's one way. Tofu can be had pretty cheap too. But you can get organic tofu for a couple bucks. That'll get you 5 servings. You know, there are ways to do veganism on a budget, and it's a lot easier than being an omnivore on a budget, and healthier than being an omnivore on a budget. So just shop around, look for coupon codes. Some stores, you got to know this, but some stores, at least here in America, for instance, if you buy a case of a product, in the case of tofu, that's 6 packs of tofu, you get 10% off. So they don't openly advertise that, but it's something I found out from buying a lot of food. Something you get 10% off. So bring that up at your local Whole Foods. These are ways you can save some money. Should I take creatine and BCAAs and rest day? Creatine is something that I think vegans and vegetarians benefit from in general. The research shows cognitive improvements at 2.5 grams a day of creatine. So I almost look at creatine like a vitamin for vegans. It's worth taking to enhance your cognitive abilities. So I would take that on rest days too. BCAAs, yeah, sure. If you're dieting deep enough, it's very situational. You don't need to supplement BCAAs if you're getting enough protein for your goals and enough calories for your goals from your diet. You don't need to supplement BCAAs. That's a very situational thing. My opinion on energy drinks such as Monster and Red Bull, I don't see it. They're chock full of sugar and crap like that, and a lot of fake colorings and dyes and junk like that. It's crap. It's crap. If you want some caffeine kick, have some coffee. Have some coffee. There's flavonoids in coffee that are actually good for your health. Believe it or not, have some coffee. Skip on the energy drink crap like that. You're just blowing money on it anyway. Let's see. What was it? There's another question I saw something about. Where was that? Sugar during training produces more muscle. Actually, believe it or not, yeah, it does. 20.8% more muscle. It does. There was a study, a recent study, I believe it was pretty recent, that showed that consuming like 40 grams of sugar carbohydrates, not of sugar, but 40 grams of carbohydrates from sugar, it actually, or dextrose, or a combination of the two, like that found in Gatorade, for instance, did actually, compared to the group that did not consume the carbohydrates intra-training, did gain a bit more muscle, by 20.8% more muscle than those who did not. Can you talk about the relation between high fiber diets and higher SHBG regarding less free testosterone availability? Well, SHBG binds to testosterone, so it makes it gives you less free available testosterone. I don't think I'm totally aware of high fiber being a cause for that. I mean, it could be. I have to read up on it. But I do know that vegan diets in general, this probably is because the high fiber, vegans do have higher SHBG, but based on the EPIC research, we also have higher testosterone, total and free, despite the higher SHBG. Now, it's not a hell of a lot more. Like, we have like 7% more testosterone on average than omnivores. It's not a big difference, but it's some. But we do have higher SHBG as well, but we still have that higher level of test. But there are products you can take that can lower SHBG. I did a video on this. It was recent. It was called "This May Be Affecting Your Testosterone Levels" or something like that. Watch that video. And there's some dietary things you can do to help lower SHBG, things you can avoid like alcohol to help lower SHBG. Give that video a watch if you're concerned about SHBG. And I really, aging increases SHBG. So that's why older folks see benefit from supplements like Tomcat Alley on testosterone levels than younger folks do, because older folks have more bound testosterone than younger folks. So naturally, they're actually going to get some kind of an optimization from it, really, that younger folks probably won't receive unless they have a medical problem. Let's see here. Let's move along here. Yep. Somebody wants me to zoom in on my chest. I'm not going to take my fucking shirt off for this goddamn video. Let's see here. Why don't I mention protein powder in my ebook? I do in the back. I mentioned that you can get protein powder because I don't see protein powder as necessarily essential. If you can get your protein needs met from diet, why take an isolated protein supplement? It really depends on what you need to add to your diet. Like if it's going to balance out your calories properly, if you're going to get that little extra bit of protein you need from a powder, like an extra scoop might help you hit your protein goal without going over in like fat or carbohydrates, then do that. But if you can hit your goals without using protein powders, there you go. Don't use protein powders. Protein powders aren't essential. You can go without them as long as you're getting your protein by the means. That's why I don't push them as like, I'm not pushing protein powders in the ebook as like this thing you need to do. Let's see here. How much protein should I be eating if I'm weight training? Thanks. as a vegan, around 1 gram per pound of body weight seems to be a good top end. You know, you might get away with about, you know, 0.8 grams per pound of body weight too, but 1 gram per pound of body weight seems to be around the, and I explain this in my ebook actually, why I show the research why that seems to be around the a good guideline for vegans to follow. Non-vegans might get away with a little bit less, just a little bit less. Do I think skinny vegans are good ambassadors of the diet? I mean, anybody can be a good ambassador of the diet if they're not acting like a fucking fuckwit. I mean, like, really, my problem with people being people who are just acting like intersectional vegans, for instance, are fuckwits, and they're the ones that I think are causing problems for veganism. This holier than thou attitude. It should be about education, not force. You should educate people, whether it's being in the fitness world and educating fitness enthusiasts about veganism, or just your average person who might not relate to a bulky vegan bodybuilder. That's my advice on that. Just educate people, lead by example, and educate. People will be more receptive than that, than somebody breaking their mouth open and shoving something down their throat. You know, don't be a dick about it. Educate, because then people can listen to the information, come to the conclusion themselves. It's a personal life choice. It really is. Come to the conclusion themselves and move forward with being a vegan. They'll have learned something and they'll see the logic behind it. And that's how I've converted people to veganism, by just being logical, not by you know, making death threats or shit like that, or just being an obnoxious prick. You know, that's not going to get anyone anywhere. You know, but the pricks think it will. I mean, but there are people, I guess, that do listen to the pricks. I don't know. I'm sure there are, but I don't think most people are going to respond favorably to somebody who is telling them they're a bad person when they're just learning like everybody. Now, there are bad people, but a lot of people you have to understand that aren't vegans, they have been misinformed, or maybe they're just not educated on the matter. And to call them bad people when they just aren't educated on the matter is just, that's not right either, and it's not going to do you any favors. So you're telling me that during college you weren't a drinker and partier, you didn't go to clubs, bars, meet chicks, and get laid with them. I didn't. I was not a drinker, and I was not a partier. I went to parties, but I didn't drink. I'm just not a drinker. I've never been a drinker. It's not to say that I haven't tried alcoholic beverages. I've tasted them, never cared for them, but I was never a drinker. Never did drugs, didn't smoke. I don't like clubs because they're annoying and noisy, and there's too much stimulus going on. I'm more of an introvert. And no, I didn't go to bar. I have been to bars, but I don't bar hop. You know, I've been, my fight team, when I was part of a Kyokushin fight team, we did go to bars afterwards. I would, you know, drink like seltzer water and shit, but I was there really for the company and to rehash what we've been learning and talk about what we've learned and where we're going and what our plans are and things like that. It was really just a time for us to kind of sit down and chat and you know, get to know each other on a personal level as well, not just as fighters. And I did that, but I didn't imbibe in alcohol, and I wasn't there to pick up chicks. I've never been the kind of person who sleeps around. The women that I've slept with, every single woman that I've slept with, I've been in a relationship with. Every time, without fail. I've never had a one-night stand ever in my entire life. And you know, that's just how I operate. But I'm more introverted, so yeah, I'm not really the kind of person who goes to bars and clubs. I don't even like that scene very much, you know, for the purpose of just getting hammered and picking up chicks. It's not my thing. I don't like clubs at all. I've gone for music, like to see a band play, but I don't like, you know, that thumping music, that techno shit, those kinds of clubs, man. I don't like that shit. I've been to one time in Australia, and with a girl that I was seeing, he wanted to go out with some friends, and I did not fucking like it. It was horrible. I got a fucking headache afterwards for like 2 days. Anyway, and the people who were acting like douchebags that were there. So, but that's my opinion. When did you start lifting, and how fast did you progress in the big three? I began lifting in 2009 seriously. Like, I started lifting in like 7 or 8, but just fucking about. I think Martin Burkhahn of Lean Gains calls it fuck around itis. I had that for a while. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't really take the time to learn, and I didn't make any progress. But when I really started focusing on eating properly and lifting, In my first year, I think I put on something like 20 pounds of muscle. In that 2009, 2010, of course, it went downhill from there. I didn't put on 20 pounds the second year. It was more like 5 to 10. And then after that, it was just, it's been a fucking snail's pace. But then again, I don't take drugs, so it's going to be a snail's pace. Because, natural lifters, eventually they plateau or things just get slower and you got to try every trick in the book to make more gains. In the big three, my deadlift progresses pretty fucking quick. My squat is all right. I'm not a power lifter, keep in mind, so I'm not really looking for competitive numbers. Those progress pretty quick. My bench press sucks fucking ass. I am terrible at the bench press. I fucking hate my numbers in the bench press. But that's just because I got these long fucking arms that go down to my fucking knees, and I have this leverage issue. And no matter what I try, wide grip, close grip, all the advice I keep reading for people who are like, from sport therapists and whatnot, that people who are involved in physical sciences about how to improve your bench press as a taller, longer armed dude. I still feel like I'm plateaued a lot in the bench, and it's a lift I want to improve on a lot, but it's a lift that is my worst of the lifts. My deadlift is my best. But again, I'm not a competitive power lifter. I don't have anything against powerlifting. It's just not what my focus has been. I kind of want a good balance of strength and size. I want the aesthetics, but I want the performance as well. So that is what that is. So, but I guess for my body, I mean, they all began progressing decently when I started eating right and training right and doing it with consistency and all that and dedication and passion, and not just fucking around in the gym. Somebody says in college, if you didn't party, drink, or get laid with multiple women, you are considered a loser and will be called a virgin for the rest. Clearly, you're not going to be a fucking virgin if you've had sex even just once, dude. And why the fuck do you care what everybody else thinks about you not partying and drinking? Frankly, I think the people who over-party and over-drink are fucking losers. Why the fuck would you want to go pay somebody to impair yourself? Why would you want to fuck up your situational awareness, you fuck up your reaction times, and act like a doofus? I mean, people who get drunk, a lot of them, they fucking act like douchebags. I don't see any point in that. I'm not getting any benefit from that. And people who would call me a loser for not involving myself in those activities, well, they need to reevaluate their fucking lives. And anyone who would judge you for not doing those things needs to reevaluate their fucking lives. And any friends that would judge you for it, you need to reevaluate your friends, man. That's something to say about that. It's just stupid. In my opinion, it's stupid. It's not what I consider fun. Look, if I have fun somewhere, I want to remember that I had fucking fun. And getting hammered is not going to do me any favors in remembering the fun that I had. And getting laid with random chicks, put myself at risk for getting random women pregnant or STDs or whatever. No thanks, man. No thanks. It's pointless. I'd rather have a meaningful relationship with a girl and have sex with them in a meaningful relationship as opposed to just banging some random whore. That's my opinion on that. Let's see here. Any uncommon stretches that you'd recommend? I mean, I just use the basic kind of stretches, like overhead stretches, lat stretches by hanging from a pull-up bar or pulling back from a bar for my middle back to really pull that. Like, I'll sometimes let a bar hang from my arms, just a light barbell, like a 45-pound barbell for my traps. Things like that, just your basic stretches. I don't really have anything unusual or uncommon. I mean, even in the martial arts, we would stretch with your really basic leg and upper body stretches, and that was really about it. I don't remember any strange yoga-like kind of stuff. If you want that kind of thing, maybe go into yoga. There are some interesting stretches and positions in yoga that you might find useful. If that's what you're looking for. I don't know. Let's see here. I feel like I missed something. What do I think of the vitamin K in chlorella or spirulina? I'm sure it's just fine. Like most greens, including your algae, probably contain a good deal of vitamin K. Now, I've heard the B12 in algae is not biologically available, but the K I've not read otherwise. And like I said, your body will convert K1 to K2. It's not as efficient as eating it, but your body will convert it. Is it true that sprouted tofu is better? It does eliminate some of the anti-nutrients, but the anti-nutrients aren't so great that they're going to really affect things in the long term. And in the research I've seen, the anti-nutrients aren't so great that they're going to affect protein absorption, for instance, like your trypsin inhibitors. In the long term, if you're eating enough protein, it's not going to have any real effect. But sprouted tofu does indeed reduce trypsin inhibitors, if not remove them, and other anti-nutrients, as that would be called, from the tofu products. Yeah. Let's see here. Is 5 grams of creatine a day generally a safe amount? In the research, it appears to be 2.5 to 5 grams. In fact, they've shown that long-term ingestion of 20 grams a day, even in children, hasn't caused any kind of negative side effects, at least in creatine monohydrate. But there's a caveat. You should drink plenty of water. Creatine's mode of transport is water. You might experience kidney problems from creatine if you don't consume enough water. So drink enough water. I think the rule is for every 5 grams of creatine you consume, or is it 2.5 grams? You have to read the label. But generally, you should have about 8 ounces of water. So, so if you do 10 grams of creatine, you should have 16 ounces of water with that. That's generally how it should go. But other than that, I've never read any negative side effects from creatine ingestion. It's considered generally safe, even at high dosages, even in children. So, but maybe you're an outlier. So if you see problems, like for instance, people who have stomach problems with creatine, then stop taking creatine. If you genuinely think it is the creatine causing it. Thoughts on transdermal magnesium and magnesium supplementation in general? I mean, if you're deficient in magnesium, take magnesium. Transdermal, I don't know enough about it to be able to tell you whether it's superior than taking it orally. But any of these supplements, really, take them if you're deficient in something. I'm not a supplement head in the sense that I take everything under the sun, looking to get some performance edge from it. Some things, yeah, you might get a performance edge from it. And then even situationally so, like with carnitine, for instance. Carnitine, to give you an example, for vegans who are deficient in carnitine, if you're deficient in carnitine, your body can create it. You might find your fat loss improves if you top up your carnitine stores. Then it will level off once you top up. But if you are depleted in carnitine, it can affect your fat loss results. It can de-optimize them a bit. But that's an example of situational supplementation that, generally speaking, isn't going to give you any kind of benefits, but it could help you in a situation like that. There's been some evidence too that carnitine can improve receptor sites on muscle cells for testosterone. But if your goal is growth, maybe give that a go. But I think once you've topped up your stores, you're not going to see much more benefit from it. That's the problem with a lot of these natural supplements. They might have a short-term effect, and then you'll hit a plateau with them. And then maybe you should take some time off and see if it works by coming back to it later on. Give it a month or two off. You talk about hormonal optimization in your book. Yes, I use the word optimization because boosting gives it's a false word, in my opinion. It gives a false impression. When I say boost, someone might think, oh, this supplement could boost my testosterone and I might get, beyond normal gains by taking a particular supplement. Whereas optimization means that you are optimizing your natural levels in the sense that maybe you're deficient in some capacity, and by some mode, like lowering SHBG, for instance, your testosterone will be improved. And that is the case with lifting. You're not going to get steroid-like gains, but you will improve naturally and healthfully your testosterone levels in the normal range. That's been shown. Your body will improve in that sense, but it's not going to make you suddenly look like a gearhead. So I use the word optimize because I don't like the word boost necessarily because of the connotations that come with boost. There are a lot of people that are trying to sell you bullshit. There are people that want you to think that that might make you think that you're going to get steroid. Like, for instance, that Jay Cutler gets his results because he fucking takes Celtec. That's bullshit. That's bullshit marketing. That's false advertisement. Or it's a lie by omission. In the case of things like Celtec, they imply that someone like Jay Cutler was getting those kinds of gains by taking these muscle tech products. That's a lie by omission, because you're implying something. You're not saying that they did necessarily, but you're also not saying that they did. That's a lie by omission. So, what do you think about eating meat just once in a while? As a vegan, I don't advocate eating meat at all, ever, period. So I don't agree with that. But that's coming from a vegan. So that's my opinion. Thoughts on using SARMs and peptides? I don't know enough about SARMs and peptides to be able to tell you. I mean, if they're anything like the side effects you get from taking steroids, I would say stay away from them. You know, you could potentially cause yourself some long-term harm, some permanent harm. You know, I'm not saying you will, but you could. And I guess it comes down to, are the risks worth are the benefits worth the risks? Is what it comes down to. And why do you want those benefits? Think about this for a minute. Are you going to compete? Are you a professional athlete? Are you doing this just to look good? If you're just want to look good, you can do that without drugs. So why do something that might hinder your life, your quality of life in some way potentially? You know, just to get something that you can get decently enough without it. Now, if you're an athlete or something along those lines, and your career depends on it, then that's a choice you need to make for your career. You know, and maybe you do need to take those risks for your career. But if you're just the average dude, I see no point in taking drugs. I really don't. Not unless you need them for medical reasons. That's my opinion on that. Let's see here. How to overcome approach anxiety. I assume you're talking about with women. Really, I would say that one, being an introvert can be a detriment, because you might not be you're not really comfortable with going out and just meeting new people. But if it's not introversion, if it's something else, it could be your self-esteem and your confidence. If you improve your self-esteem and your confidence, you can do a whole lot more. Not just with women. You can go after your goals more. You can go after that job you've always wanted. You can go after that girl you've always wanted. And the rejections might not have the impact on you that they otherwise would have if your self-esteem is already shot. So work on yourself first. Recognize your own self-value and your own self-worth, and the rest will follow to a degree. You still can't force someone to date you, you know, so to a degree. But you'll have better chances. You'll optimize your chances by loving yourself and improving yourself, improving your net worth, your in general in life, not just financially, but your value as a person, like, you know, your health, you know, how you look, how you present yourself, your education. These are all things you can do. You know, constantly try to improve yourself. That's my best advice for improving your confidence, because the confidence will follow. When you start to see your own value. That's really, really the best advice I can give from somebody who's been in a dark place when I was younger. And I can tell you can turn that around. It's all about changing your outlook and improving yourself and seeing those improvements. Does a 3-night stand count as a relationship? Jesus Christ. Do you think it's important to watch slaughterhouse videos, research environmental factors and health factors to stay motivated in spreading vegan message? Or is it as effective to be a quiet vegan? You know, look, just being a quiet vegan, just not contributing, there's something to be said about that. You don't, you know, but having a message to spread will help, you know, influence other people, will help educate other people. And understanding the whys, that helps you become a better educator. So yeah, watching those, you know, slaughterhouse videos, that can have an impact on people. It certainly can. I think Paul McCartney said if all slaughterhouses had glass walls, that everyone would be a vegetarian or something along those lines. I think it's pretty true. If a lot of people realized what the fuck was going on in those slaughterhouses, they might not have the stomach to be eating meat anymore or consuming dairy. Yeah, gorilla leverages are hell for a bench press. It fucking sucks, I know. But, you know, what it comes down to is that you're really in competition with yourself, unless you're a competitive powerlifter, but you're in competition with yourself. So if your goal really is self-improvement in the gym, getting yourself stronger, getting yourself bigger or leaner or whatever, don't worry about what, dude A, B, or C in the gym is doing. They have different genetics than you. They have different, body characteristics than you. They might be on gear and you may not be. So, focus on yourself. Be in competition with yourself. If you have a goal for your bench press, you may or may not ever get there, but work toward your goal, trying to beat yourself every time you go in. That's my best advice for that. But yeah, it sucks to have long leverage and try to bench. Fucking sucks ass. It really fucking does, because you see your other lifts improving, you see one lift kind of improving a lot slower, and you're like, God damn it. But that's part of the challenge, it's part of the fun. It keeps me motivated to keep going too, because I want to improve it. So I keep pushing myself. So I don't sandblast prostitutes. No, I don't even fucking I don't even go looking for prostitutes. And I don't particularly take, I don't find women who are, have no self-value and just are slutty to be attractive. I'm not into that kind of thing. If I would even question the loyalty if they were in a relationship with me. I would never be in a relationship with someone who is going to potentially sleep around, or who I think is going to sleep around, if they're that kind of a person. I look for somebody who has good qualities, like loyalty, like, to a degree, self-control, to a human degree, obviously. Things like that. Above average intelligence, things like that. Have you researched plastic affecting testosterone? Would you do a video about it? Yeah, I could. Yeah, I mean, there are plastics like, there are elements in plastics like BPA, for instance, and phthalates that do negatively impact hormones pretty significantly, raising estrogen, lowering testosterone. I mean, it's nothing like soy. It's real. It's hardcore. It can cause birth defects. It can cause developmental problems in children, etc. Sexual developmental problems, that is. And it may very well be a very real reason why we have so many men today that act like women, because they've been exposed to this shit in their milk bottles since they were a kid. There's so many reasons why, and that's one of the reasons why I think that men today are a lot more personified. Is kale generally better than spinach? I don't think so necessarily better. I mean, I personally don't like kale. I think it tastes like spinach razor blades. It's just nasty. And raw kale has a lot of oxalates in it, so cooking is better. So I don't think that eating a lot of raw kale is good for you. And frankly, I just like spinach more. But that's personal opinion there. You may like kale a lot. I freaking not really into kale. Yoga does a lot more than increase flexibility. I would imagine so. Yoga has a lot of benefits. They've actually shown, meditation has a lot of benefits too. Life extending benefits, even cancer fighting benefits, believe it or not. It's interesting. So a lot of interesting research and a lot of those out there, and a lot of these what people would normally call new agey sort of topics. I hate to say new agey, considering that yoga is fucking old, and so is meditation. Very, very old. But people look at it as kind of hippy dippy and new age, but there is a lot of benefits to those practices. I started stretching my hips and glutes since my first injury, and I can only recommend it. Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, stretching is important. Before you lift, you want to do dynamic stretching. Stretching through ranges of motion with movement. When you're done lifting, then you want to do your static stretching. That is definitely something that can help. Although there is research to show that stretching the imposing muscle group to the one you're training between sets can actually improve your strength. It can get you some more reps. For instance, if you're training biceps, between sets, stretch your triceps. There is research that shows that can squeeze out more reps in your subsequent sets. Anyway. Let's see. Have you seen any science claiming that moderate alcohol consumption can positively affect longevity? Wine, for instance. Yeah, I mean, there is some like talk of like wine containing resveratrol, but you can get resveratrol from the skins of fruits like grapes and apples. I don't see the point in imbibing in something that's going to have a negative impact as well when you can get it from a pure positive like a fruit. Obviously, you don't overdo it, but generally speaking, a pure positive like a fruit. Thoughts on maca powder? Maca has been shown to increase sex, or at least the perception of increased sex drive. No effect on testosterone at all. So people who think that maca it raises your test levels, I've seen no evidence of that. In fact, quite the contrary. But it has been shown to raise perceived levels of sex drive. So it makes you hornier. In fact, there's research on athletes showing that athletes are hornier essentially when they take maca. So if you're the kind of person who wants to improve their sex drive, maca might very well help you. Unless there's some kind of underlying medical problem that's affecting your sex drive, then you might want to see a doctor. I always advocate that if you are having a medical problem, don't turn to natural remedies. Look at the medical problem first. It might be something you need medicine for. But hey, you'll do whatever you want. There are people who avoid cancer treatment because they want to like do coffee enemas and shit, when there's been bodies of research showing that, that has no effect. It can actually cause more problems. People who do this, what is it called? It's called the Gershon therapy. It's been debunked by numerous meta-analysis. So, all these natural approaches are bullshit. It's my thoughts on that. Do you rotate exercises? I think that replacing the bench with a band bench, for example, and rotate the band tension every week. I mean, I do, but I'll do it like every 6 to 8 weeks or so. Sometimes every 4 weeks, I might change up to a different workout routine, rep ranges, or exercise selection, or volume, frequency might adjust, that sort of thing. But just for variety, really, in some ways, and also just to add some new stimulus your body might not be used to. Because if you'll ever notice, for instance, if you go off squatting for a while, then you come back to squatting, maybe you weren't doing back squats, you're working with hack squats or lunges or something, and you come back to squats, you get like DOMs again, because your body wasn't used to that stimulus. It's sort of reacquiring that stimulus, and there is, it doesn't mean you're going to grow from the DOMs, but it is giving your body some change in stimulus, for what it's worth. And for someone with ADD, it's really good, because I get routine ADD if I do the same fucking thing for too long. I would imagine having monkey arms would be a great advantage in karate. Well, it gives you reach. It gives your punches reach. You don't have to rely on freaking kicking all the time, but kicking is obviously going to have the longest leverage versus punching. I'm not saying it doesn't have its advantages, but when it comes to bench pressing, it fucking sucks. I'm just going to say it like it is. It's ass. I will never be a competitive bench presser, even if I wanted to be. See, somebody says, I just joined the chat, so forgive me if I ask questions you've answered to death, but do you have any motivation tips for losing weight and building muscle on a vegan diet? Find purpose, really. And this is for anything in life, really. Find purpose. It could be something really fucking superficial. Like you want to look like Thor. Like you saw a movie and you just liked the way a physique looked, and you're like, I want that physique. And you motivate yourself to work toward that. And look, Hemsworth's physique, and I've done a video on Hollywood physiques, is obtainable with enough years of training naturally. You don't need drugs to get there. So find some reason to motivate you. If it's for veganism, maybe look at the animals suffering, and maybe that will motivate you to be a vegan, because you can't change the world as one person necessarily, but you can help spread an idea. You can, live the principles of the vegan lifestyle yourself. It's the principle of the situation. Find motivation wherever you can, and that's going to be really personal to you. I can't even really tell you what that's going to be, because it's personal to the individual. But motivation, having something that inspires you, is a good motivator. That's the best thing that I can tell you. Somebody says, I feel like I can't do it. Like I was meant to always be inferior to most of the other guys in my class who have been fit and good looking since I don't know when. That is that mentality is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't see yourself as having value, you're never going to have value. It's going to play itself out like that because you're never going to realize your potential because you don't think you have any potential. You have to. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to go out there because you want to be a Mr. Olympia and you're just going to become Mr. Olympia. Look, I'll never be a Mr. Olympia. Even if I took drugs, I just don't have the genetics of Mr. Olympia. I don't have the muscle insertions for it. My triceps suck dick. Like, they're never going to look big and full like a Kevin Levroni's triceps, for instance. You know, I don't have good triceps. So no amount of work ethic and effort and drugs is ever going to change that. But it doesn't mean I can't build the best body for myself that I can possibly build. And it doesn't mean that I can't increase my value, my worth, you know? And it doesn't mean that other people won't recognize that value and worth too. As long as I have value and worth in myself, I see that in myself, you know? How you carry yourself in a lot of ways can go very far in how well you can do and what you can achieve and what you can receive. So if you think you're shit, it's going to play out like you're shit the rest of your life. Stop thinking that way. That's my best advice. That's the first fucking thing you need to do is stop thinking you're shit. And there is such thing as epigenetics. Look into it. You can improve your genetics through things like proper diet, lifting weights. These are things that can improve your epigenetics, and that will translate to the next generation, your children. You know, there are people from obese families that just decide, hey, fuck it, I'm not going to be obese. And they do whatever it takes. It might take a hell of a lot of effort to not be like that. That's my best advice, man. You know, when people tell me that they hate themselves, that is the core problem behind probably a lot of their issues right there. You know, don't expect the impossible, but don't downgrade what you're capable of either, man. Anyway, I don't want to. I could go on a motivational rant with this for hours, but I've seen people turn their lives around. You know, I've seen complete sissies go into a martial arts class, people who are afraid of everything and flinch at everything, and become decent fighters in a few months' time. Now they're not like advanced fighters, but they've lost a lot of that fear, that street fear. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people harden like that, and that's just one example. Anyway, it's past 1 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap it up with doing one more question. Somebody says I have 2 videos contradicting my views on Tomcat Alley. Can I clear it up? Yes, I can. I did an earlier video where I saw no benefit from testosterone boosting with Tomcat Alley. That is true. I don't like using the word booster. If you're taking Tomcat Alley generally, even as a healthy male, for instance, to improve your testosterone levels, yeah, it's going to be a waste of money. But if you're somebody who has higher SHBG, like the research is showing on seniors, specifically seniors, or people who are a little older, do get benefit from Tomcat Alley. So, and that is not because it boosts their testosterone independently of other factors. It's because of other factors, like lowering SHBG, therefore freeing up testosterone. That's how that works. And therefore, they get more force production. That's what one study showed, more force production, better muscle mass, and higher levels of testosterone. They feel healthier, more vitality, et cetera, things like that. That has, but force production and vitality were definitely seen in that, in a study of the seniors. So that's to clear that up. You know, whenever I find new research on something or a new angle on something, I'll do a video about it. And yeah, sometimes it might seem like it's contradicting an older video, but reality, what it's doing is just me just clarifying something. I'm learning something new. I'm learning new things all the time. Anyway, I'm gonna drop it off there at that point in time because I got things I gotta take care of. But I'll do another Q&A session. It's gonna be on December 10th, I think I said it was. Yeah, December 10th at noon will be the next Q&A session. For all you guys out there that want to get my ebook, it is on offer until midnight tonight for 30% off if you use Black Friday as the coupon code at checkout. And otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you all at the next Q&A or the next video, actually. Sorry, my computer's alerting me that it's dying, so take care, guys.